Hi, and welcome to the Stronger, Leaner, Lighter show this week. I'm your host, Sally Thibault. Today we're talking nothing changes until you change the story. Looking forward to getting into this one. Hello and welcome. Welcome to Wednesday, last Wednesday of September. What happened to 2020? It's all going so fast and yet so slow. Welcome to today's show. I want to share a little bit of a story about why I'm doing this particular topic today, because it's come about by conversations I've had with numerous people this week, and I want to share that with you, and a little story about the football on the weekend and how it really brought home how you need to change a story in order to make changes in your life. But first, a big shout out to our sponsors, Jen Hines and Naz Cosmetics. Can I just say these are just brilliant cosmetics. If you're not using them, I love them. I got to tell you why I love them. They don't sit in your wrinkles. They sit on top of your wrinkles. This got this beautiful veil that just goes over the top of your skin. It's going to give us an airbrush look. I often get it. People say to me, "Can you take your filter off your camera?" I don't have one. But anyway, I just nazcosmetics.com.au. And if you're in a situation right now where, for whatever reason, your job is maybe, going through some stuff, you might want to check out that facilitators program. Really cool program. So just click on Naz Cosmetics and have a look. Let's get in today's show. I want to be very mindful of the time. Your reality shows what you really believe about yourself. We can talk a lot about mindset. We can talk a lot about positive thinking. Let me just turn my phone off. Apologies. But the thing is this: what you truly believe about yourself manifests as your reality. I know that can be really hard sometimes, and it's easy. We can blame everything else for where we're at. But the fact is this: where you are right now in your life is a matter of the story you're telling yourself, simply. And it shows up in three areas that hide in plain sight. Number one, your body. Where you are right now with your body is a story you're telling yourself. Number two, your relationship. Where you are in any relationship, whether that's a wonderful relationship or one you're challenged with, is a story you're telling yourself. And number three, your bank account, because that's a story. Money is energy. Where you are in your life is the story you're telling yourself. And, I was thinking this morning as I was putting the show together today, you see what you believe. The quote from Dr. Wayne Dyer: you see what you believe. I don't know how many times I've been involved in a conversation with someone and they'll tell me about something and I'll go, well, I didn't see that. You can, I've got, there's 5 of us in our family. So myself, 3 sisters and a brother. We can all be sitting around the table talking about an event that happened a couple of years ago in memory. And I can tell you all 5 of us will have a different memory. Wherever you are, whatever you believe about yourself, whatever story you're telling yourself, impacts on whatever you believe and whatever you're manifesting. And right now, I'm in the process of talking to a lot of people. We start the new Stronger, Leaner, Lighter program next Monday, and I'm talking to a lot of people who are coming onto the program. And what's happened is that they're telling me the same story. For many of them, and I'll talk about weight because that's what the program's all about, but they'll say, I've done this in the past and it hasn't worked. Or I tried this and I failed at it, or nothing seems to work for me. That's the story you're telling yourself based on the people, events, and words of your past. That's the story you're telling yourself. When you change the story, you change the outcome. And I hate the terminology positive thinking. I hate it when people say, I just have to think positive, because It's like, the garbage is in the kitchen and no one's taken it out yet. And, you can smell it and you say to someone, take the garbage out, and they'll just spray it with air freshener instead of taking the garbage out. Whatever your reality is to go to the root cause of the belief. That's where EFT comes in. Go to the root cause of the belief, because positive thinking just absolutely goes over the top of it. I had a client yesterday and we were talking about this. He was talking about, I just got to think positive. No, because you're not dealing with what I call the weeds. Okay, get to the weeds of the issue. So whether it's you want to increase your bank account, you want to attract a beautiful relationship into your life, or you want to release the weight that no longer serves you, you must change the story you're telling yourself before it will make change. That's why the fitness and diet industry have been barking up the wrong tree for God knows how long, 50 years, because they think it's all about food. It's not about food. Because if you believed and valued yourself and weren't carrying on past stories about yourself and weight, food choices would be simple. We make food choices based on what we believe about ourselves, how we value ourselves, how we honor ourselves. That's how we make food choices. And, when people say to me, I just can't release the weight, my first thought is, what's the story you're telling yourself? Because you can. What's the story you're telling yourself? Because you can. Because the minute you change the story, go in and pull out the weeds, that's when you'll change it. Because it's just a story you're telling yourself. I want to share with you how something that happened on the weekend. Now, for those of you who are AFL supporters, Australian Football League supporters, you'll know this story because it was talk of the town for all of us AFL fans. But for those who are not, on the weekend was the AFL Grand Final. And playing in the grand final on the weekend was a club, Melbourne Football Club. Now, Melbourne Football Club, for those who don't know, have not won a premiership in 57 years. This has been 57 years to get to this point where they can win an AFL premiership, which is a very big deal. Played in Perth, one of the best games I've ever seen. And my husband and I love football, the AFL, not the NRL, love the AFL. But I always love the stories. And I wanted to share the story of that with you today because there was so much goodness, so much richness that came out. Let me know if you're a football supporter and you watched the AFL on Saturday night. One of the group, we had a friend over and we just had a few wines and ate prawns and we had a great time yelling and cheering and jumping up and down. Loved it. With everything going on, it was so nice to do something that was just fun. But I want to tell you this, a story about the Melbourne Football Club. So I want to say this. This is a classic example of where you are right now has no relevance on your future success. Now, in the early 2000s, so we're going back 20 years, Melbourne, the team, had only won 22 games in 4 seasons of the AFL round. They were, back in the 60s, they were top, and then 50s, late 50s, early 60s. And now, 50 years later, they were currently at the bottom. In 2008, they were $4.5 million in debt and they're looking to align with another team. In fact, they tell the story of they would come off the field and people would be throwing their membership cards and scarves and booing the players if they came off the field. But there was a guy who'd played in the team, captain, a guy called Jim, he's now the late Jim Stones, unfortunately passed away from melanoma a number of years ago, but he took over as president. And they are talking about him as being pivotal to turning this club around. They were meeting in hired meeting rooms. They had very little training facilities, but this guy had a vision for the club. This is 2008. And they were, as I said, $4.5 million in debt. And as you know, anybody who follows sport, means you can't attract good players. Don't be defined about what people think about you. Now, right now, for those who don't know, there's a great guy called Max Gawn. He is now the captain. He's great gangly. He's almost 7 foot tall, 6'10" tall. But when he came in on 2009, he was a gangly, skinny kid, and he was the 5th draft pick. 5th draft pick. No one believed in him. And he's got a famous story about being caught smoking on the training one day. Now, he's the captain of the team, a 6-time All-Australian, And they talk about him as his captaincy is inspiring, and he's a really nice guy too. And I think that goes to show, sometimes we have this story that we think we are it, but we're not. Because when you're ready to change that story, here comes this guy now that everybody thinks is wonderful. You go back to 2009, everybody had written him off. Inability to turn it, and he had some good people that, inspired him, believed in him. And then the last part of this story, which is one I really love. Lots of good players on the night, but there's this one guy, he plays full forward. In other words, he kicks the goals, for those who don't know. And he's a guy called Ben Brown. In 2020, he was traded from a club who didn't like the way he played, traded him, and then he injured his knee in the first part of the year this year, 2021. And he went on to play an awesome game on Saturday night because, I looked at him, he's a free-range kid. People have been trying to get this kid, probably late 20s, early 30s, I don't know how old he is, to shrink to fit. How many of us in our jobs, in our families, in our life are playing small by shrinking to fit, rather than letting ourselves roam free, rather than truly being yourself? To me, as I said, lots of players on that Saturday night, but his stood out for me because here's a kid dumped from another club because they didn't like the way he played. He wouldn't do what he was told, basically. But he's not that style. That's what he wants to do. He wanted to do something different. So when you look at this club, and I think it's a huge analogy for life, everybody had written this club off in 2008. Now, it took, how many years for them to turn it around, 20 plus years. But it took a few people to believe in themselves and believe in the future of the club, to stop telling themselves the same story that everybody else was telling them, that helped them achieve what they did. And it was one of those great stories, like I think everybody watching the game, and I really felt sorry for all the Melbourne supporters who couldn't be there because of what's going on. It was played in Perth and they did a great job. But it was like everybody wanted this team to win. And it's where that story that you're telling yourself is the story holding you back from winning. What's the story you're telling yourself now? Body, relationships, bank account. What's the story you're telling yourself? It never happens to me. Everything I've ever done before, this never happens. Everything I do fails. Who do I think I am? All these words running around in your head. So what I want to share with you now is I want to share with you the mantra I say every day in my tapping that has, can I tell you, totally changed my, how do I say this? It's totally changed what I'm doing this year. I feel that what I'm doing this year has ramped up a notch. And it all came back to, I'm not young. Oh, I may look young. No, joking. I'm 65. I can change anything I want, and so can you. This doesn't matter what story you're telling yourself. It doesn't matter. You can change it. I want to share with you the mantra that I've been saying. I started this 2 months ago. And since then, I put this particular mantra down to changing so much in my life. So wherever you are, no matter how old you are, whatever state you're in, wherever you are with your body, remember your beliefs all hide in plain sight, whatever's going on for you. And I'd like, just grab a pen and paper if you want and write this down because it is so incredibly powerful. So every morning I write my intentions down in my journal because it's part of my creating the vision in my mind. And the last part of, I have a 4-stage thing that I write every day where I say I am. So whatever my vision is, I am. And then I look at reducing limitations, and I open my heart and my mind to intuitive thoughts, ideas, possibilities, and opportunities. But this is the one for me, and I'll say it so you can get a chance to write now. And it's about forgiveness. Forgiveness of the people, words, and events of my past, but also forgiveness of myself. Forgiveness of myself. And so this is the words that I use. I now forgive myself and all the people, words, and events of my past that caused me to make stupid, limiting decisions because I felt unworthy. Because that's why we make decisions that don't empower us, is because just we feel unworthy. We don't feel worthy of success or money or a great body or a fantastic relationship. So, and the most powerful way that you can turn that around is to just move to that place of forgiveness. I now forgive myself and all the people, words, and events of my past that caused me to make, I add the word stupid, you could just add limiting if you want, limiting decisions because I felt unworthy. And I now invite money, success, health, wealth, relationship, whatever you want. I now invite it into my life in ways better than I think possible. So remember that everything happens as energy. It's all energy. You forgiving yourself and all the people, words, events of past. We've all got stories of things that people said to us as children, you know, and it's not to blame those people. They said them at the time, you know. I in fact, one of the biggest things I've ever had to overcome, because it came up a lot when I first got into tapping, was my, the days when we called Form 5, grade 11 English teacher telling me I wasn't clever enough to be a teacher and that's all I'd wanted to be. And I remembered that day sitting there with my mother, absolutely crestfallen. So it was like my whole dream. I only ever wanted to be a teacher. And I had to do a lot of EFT and tapping. And finally, I had to forgive her, Mrs. Ryan, wherever you are. Probably not alive anymore. I think she was about 65 back in 1972. I don't think she's around much anymore. But when she said that to me, I had to deal with that for the rest of my life, believing I wasn't smart enough. And that was a story I was telling myself. That was because the way she taught, she didn't teach properly. You know, back in the days when all the nuns were in black and white and a black and white board, and I'm a kinesthetic learner. Couldn't take it all in. That's a story I was telling myself. And until I'd cleared that story at whatever age it was 55 or something, I realized that I'd been holding myself back all my life because I didn't believe I was smart enough, clever enough to do what other people did. And so many of the decisions I made in my life were based around that. That I just didn't believe I was worthy enough, smart enough, good enough to do what I love to do, success in my life. So that's what I'm going to challenge you to do this week. I'm going to challenge you to look at the stories you're telling yourself. What's the story? It's showing up. It's in plain sight. Body, relationship, bank account. And if you want to change it, change the story first. Don't do the positive thinking rubbish. It's a waste of time. Weed the garden properly. Pull the weeds out by the roots. Just don't cut them off. You know, weeds in the garden, you put flowers around them, still got weeds in the garden. Just have a look at that. And if you are interested, the Stronger, Leaner, Lighter program starts on Monday. Super excited about this. But yeah, it's interesting the conversations that are coming up because of limitations. And that's what we do over the 12 weeks. We look at how you change what you believe about yourself, because you won't release the weight that no longer serves you until you do it emotionally, spiritually, and then physically. That's the way it works. And if anybody tells you it's about diet and exercise, they don't get it. Pull the weeds out first, everything else happens easily. Thank you so much for being on the show today. We are now at 12:21. Let me know if you want to have a chat about the Stronger, Leaner, Lighter program. And thank you for being here today. I look forward to seeing you next week on the Stronger, Leaner, Lighter show. And remember, wherever you're going through, whatever happening right now is just a story. And just like the Melbourne Football Club showed on this year, you can change it. I'll see you soon. Oh, I think. I shall see you soon. Bye for now.